Welcome to the Brewery District Toastmasters meeting. I'm Ann Maddox. I'm your Toastmaster for today. First of all, I'd like to introduce a couple guests that we have. First, we have Jen Town. She heard about us on the website. I think our second-time guest is in the back behind her, Sharia Williams. She's the supervisor here at Grange. Is another Grange employee, Steve Nelson. Welcome to all our guests. Okay, since this is my first time in the role as Toastmaster, I thought it'd be very appropriate for the theme to be first. Okay. Some first are met with a lot of excitement, like going to the beach for the first time, for a week's vacation, which I'm going to do next month. Other firsts are met with a little more apprehension, such as being a Toastmaster for the first time. Approximately an hour from now, I plan on feeling that sense of accomplishment from meeting that apprehension head on. So let's get started. Okay, our roles for today, our timekeeper is Nancy Collier. I asked Nancy what's the first that she would like to conquer, and her answer is she'd like to break a score of 90 on the golf course. Nancy, you have to make sure you let us know when you accomplish that first, okay? And can you tell us a little bit about your role as timekeeper today?
Yes, as timekeeper, my responsibility is to time the prepared speakers for the allotted time that's listed, the table topic speakers, which are 1 to 2 minutes, and the evaluation, those that are evaluating the speakers, and those are 2 to 3 minutes. At the lowest minimum time, the green card, we're going high-tech today, the green card will be lifted. Once it reaches the midpoint of the targeted time, the yellow card, and then at the maximum time, the red card.
Thank you. Our table topics master today is Greg Helser. He'll tell us a little bit about his role later in the meeting. Our speakers today are Karen Murphy, Matt Cavanaugh, and Mary McLaughlin. Our evaluators are Trevor McGill, Mike Delaney, and Tom Nguyen. Our camera operator is Rakesh Patel. Our grammarian is Gudam Parachuri. And his most memorable first is the birth of his first son. And he mentioned that it was the first baby he's ever seen that was so tiny. And Gudam, could you come up and let us know about the word of the day?
The word of the day today is conundrum. Conundrum is a problem with little or no information. It can be used, kids can use it in some context like riddles and so forth. So an example here I have is conundrum of how ancient people used to build massive structures with no technology. So it's a noun, I'm sorry, but after I click my send, I realize it's a noun. So usually I prefer verbs, but a little short story about my grammar, how good my grammar is, or related stuff is. Way back, 10 years back, when I was here, someone stopped by and said, I have to go to graduation and I'm broke. I just looked at them from head to toe. I'm like, you're broke. Oh, your hands and legs seem perfectly fine to me. And then I realized, okay, it's, typically break, the broke is the past tense of break. So the only break I know is when you drop a glass and it breaks. So I didn't realize that having no money is also called broke. So, well, as a grammarian, I'm going to watch your ahs, ums, all those crutch words. Pretty much any grammar conflicts, not right ones. So good luck, folks. Thank you.
Before we get into our prepared speeches, we're going to listen to our nomination session for 2012-2013. Tom.
So Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. It's come time for us to end our term as officers, and I've truly appreciated being your president for the last year. I've worked with some great officers, Mike, Carol, Cassie, Natalina, Greg, and Carol. Yeah, that's it. And Gayla.
Just the president.
That's right. And Gayla. And it's been an amazing ride seeing everyone grow here. And the main reason we've grown is because of everyone in here. All the members that has joined, all the guests that's seen us grow and helped us, all the people that have taken roles, all the speakers, and the ones that have taken on roles that they haven't before. It's great seeing everyone grow, and it's great helping them. And what better way to end a term than to have nominations for the next group. So the group that we have for nominations are Gayla Foote for President, VP of Education is Mike Delaney, VP of Membership is Karen Murphy, Secretary of Arms is Ray Chen, and Dan Cook. We'll have 2 people for that role. VP of Public Relations is Anna Maddox, and Secretary and Treasurer will be Catherine Castelline. Since we had only 1 for each role, do we have anyone to have a motion for this?
I'll make a motion to install that list as the next group of officers for the next Toastmasters term.
Thank you. Do we have a second motion?
A second.
Thank you. All that
Agree.
agree, there you go. All that agree, say yay.
Yay.
All that oppose, say nay. Welcome new officers. Yes.
How long is the term?
We start in July 1st to June 30th. This is our last meeting for the term. Yeah. And again, I apologize for missing Gayla for the last her group. And she is our president now, so I truly apologize. Thank you.
Our first speaker for today is Karen Murphy. She's working on Project 3 in the Competent Communicator Manual, Get to the Point. Her title is Tic-Tac-Toe Time Management Tactics. And her memorable first is being the first woman plant manager at her company, which was Rahm and Haas, a specialty chemical company. Karen.
days. 15 days. That was the answer that my sister gave me when I called to ask how her job interview went. She had been out of work for about 11 years, taking care of her family, and she was ready to get back in the workforce. The job interview actually went well. She told me they had offered her the job, but she found herself in a conundrum. The HR manager came in to tell her about her benefits and said, you know, because of your experience, we're going to offer you 3 weeks vacation. I told her, Linda, that's great. 2 weeks is normal. You got 3 weeks. She said, Karen, that's 15 days. I was used to 11 years. Well, she was in a panic, and she started to get me in a panic. Because I said, how do I do it with just 15 days? How do all of us get by as we work and run our life with the vacation that we have and the time that we started to get panicky? Well, I walked myself, back to a calm spot, and I thought today I'd do the same for you. I'd like to cover the treasure of time, how we spend it, how we manage it, and play a little bit of a game of tic-tac-toe. Today, I'd like you to be able to come away with 3 time management tips that can help you in your time management challenge. To start us off, to kind of get focused, I asked Ton if he would volunteer to share a time management challenge to start our thinking. Ton, would you like to share what's going on with you today?
The current challenge I have right now outside of work is trying to figure out how to balance time to spend with my wife, time to figure out what to buy for our baby that's coming in September, my next career move, TV time, and family in general.
Thanks, Don. That's quite a list. Many of you may share some of those. I mean, a new baby, like my sister, moving into a new part of your life can throw you for a loop sometimes. So it's great to look back on what do we know about time management, you know, what systems are out there. And I'm going to suggest 3 categories today. One is there's organizational tools that help us in time management. Another category is just goals and priorities. And the third is being self-aware. But let's start off by thinking again of a time management challenge you may have, like Ton shared with us. Mike, you might have something in mind. John, I can see thinking of some things. Well, from there, let's look at where do we spend our time. I passed out a handout because I thought it was interesting to look at Stephen Covey's model of where we spend our time. He breaks it up into quadrants that look at what's important and what's urgent. So quadrant 1 is important and urgent. Work deadlines, projects, family responsibilities, even health. It's important and it's urgent. You need to take care of it. The second quadrant, I put a star by, because that's where we can live our passions. Long-term relationships, you know, working on our dreams. Mary, I imagine you in this quadrant. She talked to us about inspiration and how that guides her life. It's a great quadrant. It's important, not urgent. Quadrant 3, you see, is about not important things, but they can be urgent. Oh, I'm sorry, I've got a text coming in. Can be addictive, can't it? Your emails, your phone calls. It's not important, but sometimes you get caught in that quadrant. And the last quadrant, I heard a little bit in Ton's talk about TV time. Some time wasters. I know I can sit in front of the TV and something come on like American Idol or that top model show. I don't know how I get wrapped into it. But that's the map. And what I'm going to suggest today in our time management techniques is how do we trade some of that non-value time to get us back up into the important urgent, we've got to do it, and that passionate inspirational quadrant that's important but maybe not so urgent, we never seem to get to. So let's think about these 3 categories. And I'm saying tic-tac-toe because if you can get 3 across, 3 down, 3 diagonal, you win in tic-tac-toe. So I want you to win today by thinking of a few time management tips that either you do well or that you've heard of, and we can share 1 or 2 in our time today. But if during the evaluation part you can turn in your sheet, and if you think of some, I will record all those and email them back out to you. So let's put our heads together in time management, because like my sister Linda, she had to really think hard of how she was going to live her life from then on. So first one, organizational. Think about anything in that category. I put 1 in to-do list. That's pretty standard. Anything else you can think of, write that down. We'll move on to the second category. That category is goals and priorities. I gave you one of my favorites, and that's thinking about your vision and mission in life. If you have that in mind, it helps you aim for that quadrant 2 treasure map. The third is being self-aware. What is it about you that can help you manage your time? I know I'm a morning person. I can actually get up at 5:30 in the morning and get to something, be very efficient, be very quality-oriented, and get it done. You hit me at 5:30 in the evening, I'm in that slump. I'm just no good for anything. So let's take, again, just 10 seconds, jot down some things on your tic-tac-toe board, and then I'm going to ask for a couple of volunteers. All right, are we ready for, somebody has a time management tip. We heard about Tom's challenge, you have your own. How about over on this side? Anyone want to volunteer a tip?
I have a little tool I don't know that I use. I have my lunch cooler, and it sounds bizarre, but I put important notes, things in there, and I put like my little thumb drive, everything goes in there, and Janet knows when I come home, she'll look in the cooler and look around, is there anything in there? And often, that's my one place I go to. And I carry it around with me, so it's kind of bizarre. But
isn't that, well, food's important, so you can find something that's important and put the important things in there so you'll remember them. Well, thanks very much, John. That's pretty cool. How about on this side of the room? All right, Carol.
I have one that I received in a class that when a task comes to your head, if it takes less than 2 minutes to do that task, like call the dentist for an appointment, do it right as soon as you think about it.
Right, so it's something that you can do quickly. It's that old thing, don't put it in the inbox. Take care of it, handle it once. Great tip. Let's have one more and then we'll end. Time.
I put notes on my Google Calendar so that it was actually send me a text message of it to update me at the time I need it.
You don't have to remember, put it in, use automation. Well, that's all we have time for today on tic-tac-toe. But one thing I want to let you know, tic-tac-toe, there's hundreds of thousands of ways to win. And that's the same for time management. And one other thing about tic-tac-toe, if you take the first move, you are more apt to win. So take the first move. Use those 3 tips. Thank you.
Welcome, Heather. Okay, everyone has an evaluation form in front of them. It can take about a minute to fill out an evaluation for Karen. Our next speaker is giving his very first Toastmaster speech, Matt Kavanaugh. His title is called Problem Solving.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. I have lots of problems. I'm going to share one with you today. My problem is I hate giving presentations. Hate it, but I have a good reason. The reason is from 6th grade. 6th grade, science. I had to give a presentation in science. I decided to give it on fossils. Now at that time, I was a big fan of fossils, dinosaurs, and anything prehistoric. So if I had known Mike Delaney, I would have been a fan of Mike Delaney's. So I spent a lot of time on my presentation. It was a topic that I was interested in, and I had high expectations for my presentation. So the day of the presentation, I was one of the first. They went in alphabetical order. 30, 35 kids in the class. Teacher was in the back. Right up front, sitting right there, was a boy by the name of Carlos Willis. Carlos Willis was this little mouthy kid, always got into trouble. The bad part was the teacher couldn't see Carlos Willis when I was giving my presentation. So I had my note cards, had my fossils all lined up. I start to give my presentation, and as you guys all well know, giving a presentation, starting off on the right foot is paramount. I started off on the left foot, thanks to Carlos Willis. He pointed at me, laughed at me, made faces at me, and I got a little flustered. And he saw that, so he ramped it up. And it spiraled out of control. I ended up hyperventilating, did a little bit of crying, and the teacher came down, patted me on the back, sent me to the showers before I even finished my speech. So from that point forward, I decided I would never put myself through anything like that ever again. And here are a couple examples in adult life. I went to Ohio State. Ohio State, they have foreign language requirements. So I took Spanish, and I was plowing through the classes, getting A's, feeling pretty good about myself. The very last class, leafing through the syllabus the first day, and it said I had to give an oral presentation as part of the final in Spanish. So do you think I manned up? 6th grade, little afro-wearing Matt Kavanaugh showed up, and he found a way around giving a presentation. The plan was to ace every quiz, homework assignment, test, write up my speech, hopefully get some partial credit for that. I figured I'd get a B minus, A plus, something like that. I could live with that. So I was the only kid in the class who didn't give the presentation, which was a little embarrassing, but not as embarrassing as giving a speech. And I got an A, so I didn't learn my lesson. The other example was, again, at Ohio State, they have English writing requirements. So I signed up for the one that everybody else had signed up for. I show up the first day. It's in the basement of some old, dirty English building at Ohio State. It's this tiny little room, packed to the brim with students. The teacher's this old, mean curmudgeon, and also in the class was a guy by the name of Kevin Randleman. Kevin Randleman was a two-time All-American wrestler, an eventual UFC fighter, pretty intimidating dude. So, again, what I always do when I started a class was leaf through the syllabus to see, are there any presentations? There were 3 presentations in a 10-week period. 6th grade Afro-Air and Matt darted out of the class before it even ended, the very first class. I dropped the class, signed up for a natural resources class that met the requirement. I wasn't going to give a presentation in front of that teacher and Kevin Randleman and a bunch of kids in a tiny class. So, fellow Toastmasters, I have a problem, and I'm hoping you can help me. Help me either overcome my fear of public speaking, or help me find where Carlos Willis is, and make him pay for what he did.
That's great, Matt. Everybody can fill out an evaluation form. We'll take a minute to do that. Our third speaker is working on project 2 of the Competent Communicator Manual, which is organizing your speech. Her title is The Sport of Coaching. Marion McLaughlin.
Ready? Okay, it's coming. The serve's coming. It's over the net. It's back. The racket's back. Whack! I did it again. I rolled my hand over. Out it went to the left. Okay, here we go. I'm ready. It's coming. Uh-oh, it's going to be a backhand. I suck at backhand. I can do it. Whack! Over the other side of the court. One more time. I know I can do it. I used to be good at this game. I can remember. I'm ready. Okay, here comes a serve. Good, it's a slow one. I can get it. Racket back, foot forward, follow through. Yes! I got it! How many of you have that same cacophony of noise going on in your head when you play a sport? You know the one. When you get it right, there's that hope and elation. I can do this. Maybe there's those noises. You know, those old tapes. I can't do this. My coach told me I rolled my hand over. I know I'm going to roll the hand over. I know it's going to go out to the left. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests, today we're going to learn about the sport of coaching. We're going to learn how to play from the inside out. During the 1970s, there was a pretty influential tennis coach in England. His name is Tim Galloway. He did something that forever changed the field of coaching. He had spent many hours and many read many books, done a lot of research about how he had learned to coach and how he had learned to play the sport of tennis. He had coached many hundreds of people, and he kept paying attention to the nuances of how they learned. He had some theories that he wanted to test. So one year, he had an opportunity. He was presented with a group of semi-pro tennis players that wanted to notch it up to the next level. He had a bright idea. On that first day, when they came to the courts to meet their coach and begin their process of learning and being coached up in the profession of tennis, they met a whole room full of professional coaches. There they stood, sinewy muscles, that perfect tan, that bleach blonde hair, those crisp white shorts and shirts with the club medallion on the chest. They really looked like some amazing coaches. Well, Tim looked at the semi-pros and he said, "I've got a surprise for you. You're each going to have your own coach for the next 6 months. We are going to take you from where you are today all the way to the top." So with a little of anticipation, all the semi-pros players waltzed on over to the court and they lined up. Behind each player was their own coach. Every coach said the same thing. "Go ahead, hit some forehands." They assumed a stance, up went the racket. Pop! Racket back, swish. Not bad. Pop! Racket back, swish. A little bit better. 10, 15 forehands go by. Coach doesn't say anything. The player's thinking, "I know he's going to say it. Pull that racket back faster." It's what every coach tells me. I know he's going to say it. Put that weight on the front foot. Every coach tells me. Keeps hitting. The players keep hitting. All of a sudden, racket back. Pop goes the ball machine. Whack! Perfect forehand. All of a sudden, the coach shouts out, "Great shot!" "Whoa, I got it going on now," says the player. So he looks back at the coach, prepared to hear, "Good shot, but here's what you need to do to make it better." Isn't that what every coach does? Tells you how to succeed, tells you how to do it right. That's not what happened. The coach just said, "What was different about that shot than all the others?" "I don't know, you're the coach, you tell me." "No, you tell me. What was different about that shot than all the others?" So the player slows down and he thinks, "Well, let me think about that. Where was the ball?" Well, the ball was a little bit closer. Where was the racket? The racket was perpendicular to the court and it was parallel to the net. That's what was different. "Great," says the coach. "How could you adjust what you do to hit the ball like that every single time?" I know. I'm going to have to really pay attention to where that ball is and where that racket is at that moment when the two connect. Did you hear the difference of what went on in that player's mind? When he was just hitting the balls, when those forehands were going over the net, he had all that noise again. All that past stuff, all that expectation of what he was going to hear, the criticism. When the coach began just asking him questions, the noise went away. And what he heard and what he was able to do was focus clearly on the ball and the racket. Everything else went away. Well, you know, a really amazing awareness happened at the end of that time. For the first time, it became apparent that you don't have to know how to do something to be able to do it. And you don't have to know how to do something to be able to teach someone else. It really was the beginning of the whole world of what we now know of as professional coaching, business coaching, life coaching. You see, the trick of this whole matter, those were not tennis coaches. They were ski instructors. They could not have taught those guys to play tennis if their life depended on it. They only had their coaching ability. They had to rely on those players for the excellence and expertise of tennis. They asked those curious questions because they needed to find out. But in the process of asking the questions, they pulled the potential out of those players. That's what a coach does. A coach stands beside you. They ask the questions that bring out the very best in you. So my challenge for you, will you engage in the sport of coaching? Will you allow a coach to ask powerful questions to still the noise? Or maybe will you ask your own powerful questions?
Thank you, Mary. Again, let's take a moment to fill out an evaluation form for Mary. Next, I'd like to introduce Greg Helser, who's going to conduct the table topic session of our meeting.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters and guests. Have you ever had the conundrum where you're standing with someone in the elevator and they ask you a question and all of a sudden you have to speak to them? I hate when that happens. Today's table topics is to get you up front to give a 1 to 2 minute presentation on a topic that you haven't prepared for at all. I have in this mug of mystery about 5 or 6 different topics, and I did not follow the theme of the day. I followed a different theme. The theme of these topics are all about me. So these topics are all about me, Greg. Very simple, as I am as well. Any volunteers? 1 to 2 minutes speech. Ernie, come on up.
I'm going to pass up a subject like this. Greg and his wife planted a very nice garden this year. If you could plant anything in a garden and make it grow, anything, what would you plant? Well, one of the natural things, the first thing that comes to mind is a money plant that would grow real money. That's one of the first things that popped into my mind. But they say money doesn't buy happiness, and then I rethought that, bit of a conundrum there, and I said, well, I'd plant a happiness tree. Plant a happiness tree that grows happiness fruit. So that the money part, well, I mean, if I've got the happy part, then the money's probably going to come. And, of course, happiness being relative. But I would have the happiness plant, plant. I'd have it taste like fresh tomatoes, because we all like good, fresh tomatoes in the summer. So the happiness plant growing, we'll call them my own variety of happiness, called happiness tomatoes. Nicastro's happiness tomatoes. And maybe, just maybe, I mean, I can somehow the other duplicate, this and market the happiness plant, Nicastro's happiness tomatoes, and somehow the other get a patent or copyright or some sort of protection there, and then the money would just roll in. And everybody, the happiness tomatoes, I'm in. Who wouldn't buy them and be willing to pay a pretty hefty price for them? So there you go.
Yeah.
That way you could can happiness, right? Next up, who wants to do a short presentation on me? Anyone? Horace.
Tomorrow, Greg and his wife are celebrating their 16th anniversary. Give the group some advice on how to make a marriage work. Tabletop Toastmaster, Madam Toastmaster, friends, fellow Toastmasters, guests. I've been practicing at marriage for 26 years. I still haven't gotten it right, but I'm still practicing it, and the woman I'm practicing it with has stuck around for that long, so I guess we've done a lot. One of the things is that my wife and I have a very same, actually very competitive senses of humor. And we don't always laugh at the same things, but we always appreciate the other's attempts. And whenever Lisa, my wife, is down, I try to find a way, if it's, I have to embarrass myself to do it, of trying to lift her spirits. And then she'll come over and meet with her and somehow, try to convince me it's not, the world's not collapsing like I think it is. So we're always there to try to lift each other's spirits and buoy each other up. And that's gotten us through a lot. And we just also, whenever things get rough, we don't pull the ripcord, we don't look for the door. We look to each other and try to figure out how to make it work. So that's my advice.
All right, who's up next? Yes, in the back.
This year, Greg's grandmother is celebrating her 97th birthday. Give some advice to the group on how to live a long life. Okay. Alrighty, this is my first attempt. I guess on how to live a long life, I would start with happiness. Happiness is a key to having a long life. You have to be happy, and happiness involves your family. So I feel that having a lot of family around brings happiness into your life and joy. It keeps you healthy, especially little ones as you get older. Your grandchildren keep you enthused, keep you active. So I would say family definitely would be a part to living a long life. I would say keeping yourself physically fit would be another part to living a long life. Engaging in exercising, eating healthy, and just doing things that you like to do to enjoy life would also be some keys to living a long life. Keeping, I guess some other things I would say to live a long life would be to, I guess I would just have to harp back on happiness. I just think happiness is the key to everything. As long as you're happy and you do the things that make you happy and keep your priorities in check, which normally consist of your family, I think your life will be very prosperous.
Time for one more?
Okay,
Yes,
so-
Steve.
Greg's family currently has 1 dog, 2 cats, 3 rabbits, 4 ducks, 3 goats, and 25 chickens. What part do animals play in your life? With my life, my family has always grown up. We grew up as a dog family. we had St. Bernard from the age I was, I think we got her when I was 9, and unfortunately she passed away when I was in college. She was 20, well, I was 22, she was 13 years old, so ancient for a St. Bernard. And so that was always an integral part of my life because she was always there. Whenever I would go home for college, she would always come back, and she would always be extremely excited to see me. And now since all the kids have left, me, my brother and sister, we've all scattered about the country. My mom has taken it upon herself to replace us actually with pets. So we have the whole range of pets since there's 3 kids. Now she has 3 new kids. She has a Chihuahua, a Husky, and a Great Dane. So she has the whole gamut from the smallest pet to the very largest kind of breed of dog. And they're also complete polar opposites too. The Great Dane, of course, is a docile, loving one. The Chihuahua is just yappy, and I firmly believe the Husky spends probably about 98% of the time my mom's at home plotting on ways he's going to make my mom's life miserable when she comes home. So, yeah, in the end, pets have always just been something that I've grown up with, and they've always been there. So, yeah.
Time for one more, and there's only 2 to choose from. So, who wants to be? All right, Pat, come on up.
Fellows Toastmasters, guests, Madam Toastmaster. Greg is leaving Greg is learning how to work in a team environment for his most recent project. What skills should one possess in order to work well with others? Well, actually, that's something I have been learning for the last year. I've moved from a group upstairs in process and accounting where you're working by yourself to a group area that is very open, and all you team members are right there, right beside you. And one of the things I would definitely say to start off with is learn to lower your voice. Because you're used to talking in like a normal tone, and when you're in an open space, everybody can hear what you're saying. And then secondly, watch what you're saying, because even the most fragmented thing someone picks up, they can take offense to it when you don't even mean it for them. And I guess the third thing is, which I think Greg possesses, is ability to work well with others. Be friendly, have the right kind of spirit when you work with others. Sometimes, we're all in a bad mood and you'll say, whatever. Well, people take offense to the whatever. So, you just have to say, okay, well, I'll deal with it later, or we'll talk about it later. And I know Greg possesses that. So I don't think he'll have any trouble with working with others. I think the biggest problem, which I know the problem I had was, again, you're used to working by yourself and you're having to work with lots of people. And then you get the questions, you think you're working and you're doing well, then you get this person coming up, you get this person coming up, and it's a matter of prioritizing now inside yourself. Okay, I have 5 people, okay, I need to put myself aside, and let's deal with each one of these first, because if I leave these guys hung up and do my own, then they are, they're waiting on me, and it causes friction in the group. So it's a matter of, I think that's where the issue you may have, Greg, is just trying to prioritize dealing with others plus your own work.
We had Ernie, Horace, Sharia, Stephen, and Pat, and anyone else that I missed? Make sure you vote on the little slip and pass it up to me. Thanks.
Moving on to the evaluation portion of our meeting. And evaluating Karen's speech is Trevor McGill.
Thank
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, guests, especially Karen. Karen is working on Project 3, just get to the point. The goals for this speech is to develop a speech that has a clear general purpose, such as to inform, persuade, entertain, or inspire, have a clear specific purpose, and then organize the speech to support that purpose, to speak with confidence, energy, and enthusiasm, and to not use notes. Karen had an extra point where she was doing audience interaction. She was trying to make sure she was able to do that and kind of get that in within the time limit. First, I would say that you had great connection with the audience. First, the subject of time management. It's something we all struggle with. But you interacted with the audience, getting time to help in the beginning, getting some other people involved throughout the speech, so that was very good. And then listing the tips from people to send in afterwards, too. You had good use of language. I particularly remember the treasure of time, and then the alliteration of the title of the speech, the tic-tac-toe time management tactics, was good, too. At first, when I was hearing the speech, I was thinking the general purpose was to inform. But kind of as the speech went on, I think, and I'm not sure if this was your intent, it's more to inspire. Because you're really asking us to think about, for ourselves with the tic-tac-toe board, think about what things are important to us, what kind of tools we use, think about ourselves and how we can use the things about us, like you're the early riser working in the morning. So maybe if that were a little bit clearer.
Okay.
But you're always very confident speaking, obviously no nervousness, and you're very enthusiastic. So it's very fun to watch you speak. It's a good speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next evaluator is Mike Delaney. He's going to evaluate Matt in his speech.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, guests, Matt has a problem. I didn't like it. I didn't like your speech. I loved it. It was a good job. That was Matt's first presentation, and he was nervous as all get out. He may not have been able to tell, but he was. He practiced, and I drove that into his head until he got sick of hearing me say it. But it paid off. You can visualize little afro-headed Matt Kavanaugh running out of the room because of Carlos. I'm looking for Carlos on Facebook. This will never happen again. Matt did very well with his information. He used no notes. They were available to him, but he chose not to use them. So he had all that information in his head, and he did a really, really good job around the presentation. I know a little bit more about Matt. He shared that he used to be a big fossil purveyor, I guess, where kind of fossilized, I suppose. And that was a good use of humor to make him a little bit more comfortable in front of the audience. I loved the opening, the body, and the closing. It was very distinct. And whenever you started out with Carlos, you told us about the other presentations that you would have had to give, and you were apprehensive about giving them. Then you went back to Carlos, so you tidied everything right up. All in all, it was a wonderful job. I truly enjoyed it, and I didn't like it. Well done.
The final evaluator is Tom, who will be evaluating Mary's speech.
I had the privilege to evaluate Mary's speech today. She was doing speech number 2 from the CC manual, organize her speech. The 4 main objectives of the speech is to outline the speech so people can follow it easily, transition so that there will be fluid movement between each part, a strong opening and closing, and supporting materials for what your main point was. I think everyone already knows that Mary is a very competent speaker, more than competent, in fact. What I liked about your speech was that when you open it up, you had such great body language. That was the other focus of your speech, that you wanted to make sure that your body language focused on what you were saying also, that it fit in well. I loved how you came up here and surprisingly started moving around, and it matched exactly what the speech was about tennis. I also liked how you used a lot of movements, like when the person was thinking, the hand was up here, and when you were ratcheting something up, it was moving up your hand like this. So that was great movement of that part. Your transitions were so fluid that I couldn't even think I couldn't even see the difference between one part versus the next part. Some of the things I can think of for you to work on is, let's see, the outline of the speech, based on what I've read in the book, was to give a main point and then 3 supporting parts, and say that at the very beginning. And I think the main point of the speech was just Tim, the coach. And I'm not sure how you would have broken it up to 3 main points to tell at the beginning, but if you can think of a way to do that, that'll help people follow along a little easier. Also, I saw one body move that didn't exactly fit in. In my mind, when I pictured Tim, pictured him as a manly man, someone that was coaching someone else. And when you said, "I have a surprise for you," you were shaking your butt a little bit. I'm not sure Tim would really do that. The part I liked most about your speech was the callback. You kept calling back to the noise. From the beginning to the middle to the end, you kept going back to the noise and how Tim was fixing that. And the surprise at the end was that Tim wasn't even a tennis coach. He was a ski coach. That was a great surprise for everyone to see. The one part I would add on to the very ending would be you had a lot of energy at the very beginning of the speech, and you kept calling back to what you were talking about at the very beginning. I would recommend to have that much energy and body language at the very end, and also so you can call back to the way you're showing someone as well. That's all I had. Thank you.
I'd like to bring Gudum back up to give us our grammarian report.
I was so engrossed in all the stories that I probably forgot the crutch words half the time. I think you guys did a great job. Most of you did, the speakers especially did a great job in avoiding the use of crutch words. I haven't heard a lot of crutch words. Just Karen did some great, like 15 days, panicking, and some initial start of words that really picked up and got involved people in the stories. And then the last references to American Idol and those picture stuff. Matt also had 2 A's, and it was pretty good story throughout. I saw a lot of eyes. Maybe it's just that you were describing about yourself for the most part, that's why there's an eye. But I thought there were a little more eyes than you should. But generally speaking, everything was good. Mary, just one grammar, no crutch words at all, and it was, you said he coached many hundreds of people. It has to be he coached hundreds of people. Many and hundreds is, I think you do. Karen used the word of the day. Greg used word of the day. Someone else used the word of the day. Ernie used the word of the day too, yes. And then one thing I noticed, Trevor had some R's. There's Trevor. Oh, okay. Trevor used 3 R's. Not bad at all. And one thing for Tom is when you have a sentence, you start the sentence and middle way you stop and you start another. I mean, it happened only twice, but it wasn't like it was you wanted to you start and then you start another. So something to watch out for. But overall, great job. Thank you.
Nancy, would you like to give us our timers report?
Yes, starting with the prepared speakers, Karen's time was 7 minutes 45 seconds. It was in a time frame of 5 to 7. Matt's 4 minutes 36 seconds, which was in a time frame of 4 to 6. Mary's 7 minutes 22 seconds, which was in a time frame of 5 to 7. On the table topic speakers with Ernie, I had a senior moment, and I put the stopwatch down, so I apologize, but I anticipate it was between 1 to 2 minutes. Horace was 1 minute 30 seconds. Sharia was 1 minute 10 seconds. Let's see, Steve was 1 minute 43 seconds. Pat was 1 minute 57 seconds. With the evaluators, Trevor was a time frame of 2 to 3 minutes for each evaluator. Trevor was 2 minutes 10 seconds. Mike was 1 minute 52 seconds. Tan was 3 minutes 3 seconds. And the grammarian report with Gudem was 1 minute 54 seconds.
Thank you. Greg, do we have a table topics winner?
Yes, our winner is the happiness tomato guy.
On sale later this summer.
All right, that's about the end of our meeting. I'd like to say congratulations to all the new officers for the next year. And I would like you all to remember, no matter how hesitant you may be about accomplishing it first, it's never as bad as we imagine it to be. So,
I started with that.